or a Four Seasons. It was a really old-fashioned hotel, the kind without a bathroom in every room, and then not all the rooms were air-conditioned. It's on the square in Rock Springs, Texas. It's still there. It's got a different owner who is alleging it's haunted. Maybe my grandfather is still sweeping the lobby every day. I like to think about that. Texas was so different for me. I grew up in the Mississippi Delta. So Texas, Rock Springs, which is in a very arid area, was so different for me. It was rocky, mountainous. The trees were small. The deer were small. They raise Angora goats there. Okay, I'm going to migrate over here and get my water. This is going to be a little ceremony here. There we go. They raise Angora goats there, and Angora goats are incredibly tough. So they're about the only thing you can raise there. It made a big impression on me, and I decided to write about it for the new series. And when I established my pawn shop, it seemed like a good place to put it, at a mysterious crossroads. You know, crossroads are traditionally mystical places. They're places where suicides are buried. They're also places of execution and places where people frequently put religious shrines. All this arose from the crossing of hunting trails in Indian times, and the stories about crossroads just mushroomed after that. So I wanted a mysterious crossroads, and I wanted a pawn shop to be there. I don't know how many of you have been to a pawn shop? Okay, a few. Pawn shops are not really that great because they're usually kind of grubby and a little sad. That's where you go when you have to have money in the quickest possible way. And the first thing people pawn now is their flat screen. Next, gold, then guns, at least in Texas. But my pawn shop, I decided, would be much more interesting than that. It would have all kinds of mystical and weird objects, and the strange customers would come in at night. The really strange customers. The ones that you weren't sure were still alive. So I had a really good time with the pawn shop, and then I began building the rest of the town in my mind. And it seemed to me I would like to revisit some old friends. So the proprietor of the pawn shop is Bobo Winthrop, who was in the Shakespeare series. Manfred Bernardo moves in next door from the Harper Connolly books. And Arthur Smith is the sheriff in the nearby town. He was from the Aurora Tea Garden books. In the next book, somebody from Sookie's world will be there. Yes. And everyone in the little town of Midnight has to double up because income is hard to come by. There's a combination antique and nail salon. And the Reverend Emilio Sheehan runs a combination wedding chapel and pet cemetery. Because everyone knows in a small town you have to get money however you can, and that usually means running 2 jobs. So that's what I have to tell you about Midnight. Now what I'm doing next, I'm working on the second Midnight book now. I'm about halfway through it. I would be a little further if I weren't here talking to you good people. I'm also working on the 3rd Cemetery Girl graphic novel. The second one is with the artist. Let's see what else. I wrote a short story that's going to be in Ellery Queen Mystery Magazine. It's straight mystery in October or November. And next week I'm going to go to Los Angeles to be in the last episode of True Blood. That looks like a pretty sure thing now. It looks like we have the times worked out. I schedule everything a year in advance. Television evidently schedules everything a day in advance. So it was pretty hard to work out the times, but it looks like something I'm going to be able to do. So I'm looking forward to that. They were very gracious to invite me, so I want to be equally gracious and do it. We'll see. So I'm hoping that you all have questions for me, because otherwise this will be a very short evening. And I'm sure you do, because you're being very secretive about it. Oh, I see a hand that's coming up. Thank you.
So the True Blood show, obviously, it's different from your books. It's different from the books. So does it make it exciting for you to watch the episodes?
Did you all hear her question? True Blood is very different from the books. No kidding. That does make it more exciting for me to watch. I think it would be a little boring for me if it were exactly like the books. And as it is, it's like, very far off. Brian Buckner is running it now, not Alan Ball. Brian Buckner tried to steer the ship in a different direction last year, but it seemed like the ship had picked up a lot of momentum. So we'll see what happens this year. I'm really looking forward to it. They do send me screeners ahead of time with my initials on them, so I can't sell them on eBay, I guess. Anyway, I do get the shows ahead of time, sometimes just a day or two, but ahead of time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I answered that very thoroughly. Yeah.
Did you, so the town you grew up in, was it fairly small and you write from that experience, or do you prefer to write about small towns and more urban?
Yeah, instead of urban fantasy, I write rural fantasy. I grew up in Tunica, Mississippi. At that time, it was the poorest county and the poorest state in the United States. It isn't anymore. I think some places in West Virginia have beat it out. But it is still an incredibly poor area, except now they have gambling boats. So that's put a whole different complexion on Tunica. It's pretty weird to me now. But yeah, it was a really small town, about 1,000, and that was probably on Friday night. So that was when everybody came into town on Friday night. Old! Rock Springs was equally small. So my whole living experience has been taken up with small towns. After I got married, we lived in St. Louis. We've lived in a city, but we prefer to live in the remote suburbs or outside because, we're just not urban people, my husband and I. Yes?
How did you become a writer? How did you begin?
How did I begin to be a writer? Wow, that was all I ever wanted to be. And luckily, it was one of those dreams that came true. I wanted to be a writer. I loved reading. My parents revered reading. They always had a book. They always had a book by their chair. And I thought, oh, that's just so wonderful. I didn't know that real people, just ordinary citizens could write books. I thought I would have to drink and live in New York. But neither of those things pertained, and I found out that I could be a writer no matter where I was. Luckily, I took a creative writing course the one year we lived in St. Louis. The woman who taught it was a former employee of Houghton Mifflin in Boston. She recommended the book I was writing to Houghton Mifflin, and they took it. Wow. I know it. Hate me. I'm drinking it all in. It was a wonderful, wonderful beginning. Yeah.
Do you have any tips for someone who is a good writer and recommend what they should do if they want to write a book?
What should a good writer should do if they want to write a book? Well, if you're a writer, you are compelled to write a book. And you are compelled to want people to read it. I don't know why that's part of the equation, but it is. To be a writer, you have to have talent. You have to enjoy being by yourself. and you have to be self-starting. You've got to be able to shut yourself in a room and write. And that is where most writers fail because they simply cannot bring themselves to do it. But that's the key. You have to do that. That's it. Worry about selling it after it's written. You will never sell a book you haven't written. Yes.
I love the Harper and Tolliver series. Is there any chance there'll be more?
If I have a great idea for Harper and Tolliver, I would write another one, but that just hasn't happened. I had 2 options for television. They both fell through. Yeah, I know. Oh. I was bummed out, but we will see what happens. I would like to write another one. I am probably going to write another Aurora Tea Garden. Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad people didn't go, what were those? Well, I would like to write another one. So we'll see. Yes, sir.
How did you feel having the Stackhouse turned into a TV series?
How did it feel? It felt marvelous. It felt marvelous. It was scary and exciting, and it opened a lot of doors that I had never anticipated being open to me. I had never hung around with too many actors. I had never been on a television set. I'd never done a press line or a red carpet. Now I've done all those things. I found out I could do all those things, and it was scary and wonderful. The first time I watched the show, they sent me a screener, and I thought, oh my gosh, we're going to have to move. I lived in a very conservative community then, and I thought, there's a lot of difference between, seeing the sentence in a book and seeing the reality on the screen, and I was just going, oh! But it was just great. I've met some amazing people as a result and had some great adventures. And all my kids have been in the show too. Yeah, Alan's pretty good about stuff like that. Yeah.
Did you ever want to write any of the episodes?
Did I? No, I didn't. And I realize that's a shortcoming of mine because I should have wanted to write a script. But I don't know. I just felt like I already had my thing. They do their thing, I do mine. I don't tell them how to run the show. They don't tell me how to write the books. I felt pretty okay not wanting to do that. Yeah.
If any, do you have any favorite characters out of all the books? And do you have any characters that you just loathe?
That I wrote? Okay. That's a whole different shooting match from the television show. I always liked writing Pam because she's so ruthless and she has such a sense of style. So Pam is always fun to write. As far as loathing, everyone I create in the books is there for a reason and serving a purpose. I don't just write people to create them. They all work. Everybody works in my books. And as loathing them, no, because they had a purpose to serve.
On the show?
On the show. I gotta say, Kristen Bauer and I are really friendly, and I just love what she did with Pam. I think Jessica is great, and Deborah Ann, and she's just gorgeous. The closer you get to her, the prettier she is. I have a very good relationship with most of the actors on the show. Yes, with Alexander, too. Yeah.
Now that you've had one of your, series of books turn into a TV show, what would you like to see, especially like your new series?
Yes. Yes, and that's all I can say.
Oh, so it's a possibility then.
Yes.
How do you overcome writer's block?
How do I overcome writer's block? I tell myself I won't get paid unless I finish the book. That's usually a big help. Otherwise, I think it helps to write something completely different for a day or two. I think you get blocked because you're going in the wrong direction. you're doing something wrong, and your writer brain is telling you that, and it won't let you go any further. So I think it helps to let it lay fallow for a couple of days, work on something else, and then when you go back to it, you'll know what you were doing wrong, and you'll know how to overcome it, and you'll be able to proceed. Yes.
When you started writing the Sookie books, did you foresee the phenomenon that you pretty much created with this whole sexy vampire thing? And
No.
the popularity of vampires coming after that?
I could not have foreseen anything like what happened to me. It's just very rare that a writer gets this, and I'm completely grateful because for many years I was stuck in the mid-list and maybe making $4,000 a book. So I'm grateful every day for all this, and I'm trying to not get proud because it's really by chance and hard work, admittedly, and talent. Yep, you got to have it. But I'm grateful. Yes, I see your hand way back, but I can't see you.
So your new series, do you have supernatural creatures? Is it romance, murder? Is it all of it?
All of the above. I started not to have any supernatural in it, but I seem to be a supernatural junkie, and I just could not help myself. So there are some elements of the supernatural in it, though basically it's a murder mystery, but there are all kinds of other things in it. I can't seem to write just one genre. I seem to like to blend them. Yeah.
Did you read a lot of supernatural books when you were a girl?
There weren't that many when I was a girl, but I did read a lot of ghost stories. I did. Yeah. Yes.
When you're writing your book, do you plot out the whole thing?
Do I outline everything? No. Would that I did. Some writers outline everything. I know one writer who does an 84-page outline. I'd go, I just as soon write the book. I don't outline, but I do now do like a 2 or 3 page synopsis of what the book is going to be about.
You already know.
So I already kind of know where I'm going, kind of know how I'm going to get there, but I always like to surprise myself too. I'm real easily bored, and my whole career is based on keeping myself engaged and alert. I see a hand way back there.
Who do you like to read?
Who do I like to read? Okay, I read a lot, and I read across the board. If you would go to my website, charlaineharris.com, not afraid to be obvious, and click on the heading Book and Blog, you will see what books I've read for like the past 3 years. I only talk about the books I liked. There's enough negativity. I'm not going to do down another writer. So don't think I like every book I read. I just don't talk about the books I don't like. I'm no Pollyanna, but well, there's just enough going against writers as it is. There's no point in me doing down another writer. That's ridiculous. Okay. Yes.
Has your pursuit of your gifts in, your aspirations inspired your children and family members not necessarily to go for their dreams and stuff?
Yeah, my son's in Los Angeles right now trying to be an actor. So I'm going, no, anything but that. And then I thought, I really can't tell him not to pursue his dream. I pursued mine, and I made it. So, good luck to him. He's good looking, He got his headshots done, and he put them on Facebook, and I thought, wow, that guy is really cute. And I thought, oh, that's my son. I think they did a little airbrushing. But, he's evidently a good-looking guy. Yeah, I did, for the most part. Not when they were infants, but I started back writing when I had had 2 of them. Then I found out I was pregnant again. But I thought, I'm not stopping this time, because I took like a 5-year break, and it just almost killed my career. It was incredibly hard to get back in. So, not a good idea, as it turned out. Yeah.
Another question. So, how did you read a lot of the reactions to how the Sookie Stackhouse book ended? How do you feel about the reactions? I mean, with any series, it's, certain people, fans, feel that it should end one way or another. Did you?
I felt pretty miserable and upset. It was terrible, really. After a while, I just said, no, I'm not looking anymore. Death threats, cursing my children. Yeah, I thought, I'm mild-mannered, I'm not a very confrontive person, and I just couldn't do that. It really marked me, and for a while I thought I was going to have to hire a bodyguard when I did anything. So I just lay that out for several months. I didn't do any personal stuff. I thought, let's let the worst of the firestorm die down, and then see. And so far, this tour has been fine. None of the haters have shown up, so I'm thinking it'll be okay.
I read one of your comments that you said you were under the impression that they were your characters to do with what you wanted.
That was the way I felt. I thought, these are my books. These are not characters I keep chained in my attic. These are not real life people. I created them. And really, they only live in my head. So, I feel like I have the right to do that. And I'm queen of the world as far as the books go. Yes.
I grew up in the South too, in Alabama, and one of the things that I really like about your writing is I'm home when I read your
Oh, thank
books.
you.
So where do you get your inspiration from to be able to have such beautifully fleshed out characters, even though it's a fantasy?
Well, I think that would be the talent part.
No, I mean,
And
in a
experience.
grocery store or,
I think you just, you think yourself into your characters, and you write them as if you were acting them sometimes. I think there's a very close tie between acting and writing. At least there is for me, because I kind of inhabit them when I'm writing them. So I'm glad you think they're fully fleshed out. Thank you. And I believe the guy behind you has his hand up.
Yeah, now that you've written a series that has been made on HBO, and you've had a few other series optioned, have you ever considered writing directly for the screen, doing screenplays?
No, I haven't. I just feel that I'm busy enough as it is writing the books, and I just feel no urge inside myself to write screenplays. Doing the graphic novels was a big stretch for me, and I enjoyed it, but to me, I'm just happier writing novels.
Okay.
And way back there.
I just wanted to tell you, the only reason my wife and I have HBO is to watch through the...
Thank you, and HBO thanks you too. And yet, there, I see a hand up on the aisle.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, how do you feel when you have to say goodbye to your characters, like a series and the characters within the series?
How do I feel when I say goodbye to them? This is going to sound bad. I feel like I did my best by them. I feel like I inhabited them for a long time, and I made them live, and I told their story. And then I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to write someone else's story. So no regrets. I'm just going rearview mirror. Yeah.
Now, didn't you kill Lafayette in the first one?
I did. Well, yeah, but it was a different Lafayette. Lafayette on the show was much more fabulous than my Lafayette, and he still is. I think Nelson is a great actor. He's just a great actor. And why he has not gotten an Emmy, you tell me.
I don't know.
He is fantastic. Way back there.
Is there going to be when will there be another Cemetery Girl?
A year after the first one came out.
So
So
this
January.
year or
No, the first one came out this year, right?
January.
It came out January 2014.
Yeah.
So the next one will be January 2015.
Cool, I loved it.
Oh, thank you. I think the artist is fantastic. Don Kramer is wonderful. Yes.
I was wondering, how long from start to finish does it take you to get through your first draft?
It takes me as long as my contract says I have. Usually it's not really 100% first draft because I revise as I go along. So it's really probably when I finish, it's like my second or third draft. And then I like to let it lie for a month and go back to it and do a lot of rewriting then. Unfortunately, I don't often have the time to do that. So I don't ever produce just a first draft. It's always been reworked to some extent. Yes.
Did you have the ending of Sookie Stackhouse or the finale of your other series in mind, really far in advance, and did it change?
Not the Sookie series. I knew from about the second book how that was going to end. When I wrote the first book, I didn't know I was ever going to get to write anymore because it took my agent 2 years to sell. Yeah. But by the time I was working on the second book, I knew how it would end. And, I left plenty of clues for people who were following. Yes. Thank you. Oh, good. That was the first series when I let my sense of humor have free reign. The Lily Bard books, Lily just didn't have a sense of humor, God bless her. And so those books were really hard to write because every time I would make a joke, I would have to take it out, and going down, 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 down. But with the Sookie books, I just said, okay, let it rip. If I think something's funny, it's going to be in there.